Leo the Lion, written by Stephen Accardi, illustrated by John Kastner. Leaving the city. The car ride was long and silent. Leo did not want to leave the city, but his father wanted him to meet his new girlfriend, Lucinda. The boy wished his parents were still together, that they hadn't divorced, but he felt resigned that there was nothing he could do about it. When he asked why his parents separated, his father would often say, "It wasn't in the stars." As they pulled off the highway, Leo noticed how different the scenery looked. Farmhouses and silos dotted the vast plains and lush fields. Herds of cows relaxed with their calves in the cool green grass. As they ascended the hills, a canopy of trees covered them. It was so different from the concrete pathways, garbage-filled alleyways, and traffic-strained byways to which he was so accustomed. "You know, Lucinda has a son in the 5th grade, too. His name is Dontrell. I'm sure the two of you will get along just fine." "I'm sure," Leo muttered standoffishly. Lucinda's house was quaint, tucked back from the road, bordering a forest. She sat on the porch, sipping iced tea from a glass, with a slice of lemon clinging to the rim. "Thomas, you made it." She smiled, skipping down the steps to greet them. Sweeping her arms to take in the view, she laughed. "Not quite like going to the office, huh?" "It's amazing how different it is out here," Thomas agreed, greeting Lucinda with a grin. Then he put his arm around Leo's shoulder. "Lucinda, this is my son, Leo." Lucinda extended her hand, but Leo didn't budge, keeping his eyes glued to the ground. "Sometimes he's a little shy," Thomas tried to explain. Lucinda crouched down to Leo's height, which didn't require much effort because Leo was quite a bit taller than the average 5th grader. "My son, Dontrell, is around back. Why don't you go hang out with him? I think he's about to go fishing. Do you like fishing?" Leo didn't answer, but begrudgingly dragged himself off the porch and toward the backyard. Leo found Dontrell pushing on a large tree trunk, barely managing to lift it off the ground. Dontrell was much smaller and shorter than Leo. "What are you doing?" asked Leo. "A little help here?" Dontrell said, still straining to move the tree trunk. Leo joined in, and with their combined strength, the two overturned the tree trunk. Worms and bugs, now exposed, slithered around. Dontrell reached for an old soup can nearby and began scooping in fresh worms and dirt. Leo watched, narrowing his brow. "Haven't you ever been fishing before?" Dontrell asked. "With worms? That's disgusting. What do you use?" "Nothing. I've never been fishing. I live in the city. There's nothing but concrete there." "Oh." Leo cracked a faint smile. He decided that Dontrell was all right. The two exchanged names and handshakes, even though Dontrell's hands were still covered with worm slime. "My mom wanted me to take you fishing before dinner, but it's getting late, so we'll have to fish quickly. The sun is about to set. Grab those poles and let's get going." Leo grabbed 2 long, skinny tree branches that each had a fishing line and a hook tied onto it. When he looked over, he saw Dontrell already on the trail, headed into the woods. Into the woods. The woods were dense and scented with musky, dark pine, the kind of smell that clings to a sweater. Leo coughed as the cloudy scent overwhelmed his senses. He had a difficult time adjusting his eyes to the shadows in the diminishing light, and he tripped over a few protruding birch roots. Dontrell paid little attention to Leo as he maintained a steady pace toward the creek. A sudden rustling in the nearby trees made Leo jump. "What was that?" he yelped. "Nothing to worry about. Probably just a squirrel," Dontrell called back in an attempt to calm Leo's nerves. It didn't work. Leo's breath became heavier and shorter with nervousness. Another noise only exacerbated his anxiety. Leo darted, to the left, to the right, circling wide-eyed. Is it a bear? Is it a bear? He huffed. Dontrell stopped to look back. There are no bears here. Just then a fox peered from around a tree, its eyes shining. But there are foxes, Dontrell added with a chuckle, pointing for Leo to see. Leo screamed, dropped the fishing poles, and bolted farther into the woods. Wait! Dontrell shouted, dropping the container of worms as he chased after Leo. After a while, Leo's adrenaline rush had subsided, and he doubled over in exhaustion. A fatigued Dontrell finally caught up to him, and both of the boys tried to catch their breath. What's the matter with you? I thought that fox was going to attack me, Leo gasped. Why would it want to do that? It's more afraid of you, especially now. And besides, it was like 20 feet away, just passing through, just like we were just passing through to the creek. After a pause, Leo asked Dontrell what had happened to the fishing equipment. Good question. I think you ditched it about a mile back, along with your bravery. Where are we? Leo asked, trying to change the topic. Another outstanding question. Would you knock it off? How was I supposed to know that the fox wouldn't attack me? I've never seen a fox before. Except for one time on TV. This hunter was hunting and he got mauled by a bear. A fox is not a bear. I know that, Leo shouted, kicking some dirt in front of him. Okay, chill out. So, where are we now? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I mean, I haven't been this far out before, and with all of your zigzags, I lost track of where we were. Great, and it'll be pitch black out here any minute. That actually works in our favor. We'll be able to find our way back more easily in the dark. What are you talking about? How can we get back when we can't see? It's in the stars. Walk over to this clearing, look up, and you'll see. The stars. Leo looked up and saw a brilliant array of stars. His jaw slackened. It was quite a sight. He had never seen such a dazzling sky in the city. With the buildings and the streetlights and smog, that kind of view was impossible. Are the skies like this every night? Leo asked. Not on cloudy nights, but otherwise, yeah, it's like this. The two boys gazed a little while longer, in awe, forgetting for a moment that they were lost. Finally, Leo asked, So how are these stars supposed to help us? Simple. By reading them. By reading the constellations, Dontrell answered. The what? Leo asked, incredulous. The constellations. The figures and symbols in the sky that have helped people find their way for 6,000 years. Are you crazy? All I see are white dots. Dots? Dontrell was about to shake his head with disgust, but then smiled with an insight. Yes, dots, exactly. All you need to do is connect the dots, and you'll be able to see a constellation. Want to try? Dontrell pointed to a row of 3 stars in a diagonal row. He explained to Leo that by connecting the dots, he would see Orion's belt. Dontrell added, the stars above the belt make up his chest, and the stars below it create his legs. No way. Orion was a great warrior. If you really use your imagination, you'll be able to see that above his head, he's holding a sword, as if poised to attack a beast. Wow, I never learned any of this in school. I only learned that stars are faraway masses of burning gas, like the sun. Seriously? Yeah, constellations are really cool, except I don't see how they'll help us get home, Leo muttered as he crossed his arms. As I was saying before, people have been using star patterns for thousands of years. Fishermen, that is, real fishermen, those who ride out to sea on a ship, not those who drop their fishing poles when they see a tiny fox. Hey, Dontrell bit his lip to restrain his laughter. Anyway, when fishermen were out to sea, they'd look to Polaris, the North Star, to navigate their ships, because it was always in the north. Some farmers, even today, use Polaris's relationship to the horizon to determine when to plant their crops and when to harvest them. But if you can find the North Star, you'll pretty much never be lost. The North Star is always in the handle of the Little Dipper. The what? Asked Leo. Look, Dontrell pointed up to the sky. See the 4 stars that make a cup and then a ladle attached to it? That's the Big Dipper. Once Leo spotted it, Dontrell explained that the 2 stars on the end of the cup were aligned with a bright star. That star, which begins the ladle of the Little Dipper, is Polaris, the North Star. So if we face that star, Leo wondered aloud, we'll be facing north? Dontrell nodded, and the 2 boys high-fived each other, jubilant that they had some hope of finding their way back in the dark. The celebration didn't last long, however. Dontrell's face grew sour as he realized that knowing where north was didn't help. He confessed that he didn't know which direction they came from. Don't worry, Leo said. When we started out on our expedition, I noticed that the sun was setting in front of us. I don't see many sunsets back home, so it made an impression on me. My science teacher told us once that the sun always sets in the west, which sort of rhymed, so I remembered it. When we left your house, we must have been walking west toward the setting sun. To get back, we need to face north and walk east, to the right. Relief washed over Dontrell's face. Leo continued, I suspect that at some point we'll hit that creek of yours. If we follow it back, still heading east, we should come to your house, right? You're a genius! Dontrell and Leo were in high spirits. The 2 had helped each other with their respective knowledge. Both were excited to get back, and since it was long past dinner time, they were both hungry, but their excitement was short-lived. More noises. After just a few minutes, the boys heard noises again. Leo panicked. Dontrell tried to calm him down, but Leo was far too frightened. He began to breathe faster and dart around again. Knowing that Leo could bolt at any moment, delaying their arrival time even further, Dontrell distracted him with the stars. Did you know that there's a constellation named after you? Stop it. I'm terrified that the fox is after me again. Seriously, Leo the lion is a constellation. The anxious 5th grader began to listen. Really? Dontrell pointed toward the Big Dipper. Remember that star on the tip of the cup that pointed to the North Star? Find that same one, but instead look south. See that bright white star, the one that looks almost blue? That's right in the middle of Leo's chest. Some say it's his heart. Leo followed Dontrell's gaze into the heavens. Legend has it that Leo the lion had the toughest skin of all the great animals. It was impenetrable, so he feared nothing. Leo and Dontrell stood in silence for a moment, regarding the lion in the sky. Finally, Leo felt he could be brave like the lion, and nodded to Dontrell that he was ready to continue. The boys heard the creek before they saw it, but once they caught sight of it, they ran to it, overjoyed. The 2 kicked water at each other and laughed. They had almost made it. Now all they needed to do was to follow the creek home. The boys reoriented themselves one last time before starting to hike again, but their eager steps were suspended in mid-air when they heard a noise up ahead. The 2 froze and strained their ears. Sweat began to bead on Leo's forehead. Dontrell held his breath. Then it came from behind the bushes. A fox, a mere 5 feet away. Its long bushy tail flicked back and forth. The fox furtively crept onto a rock in front of them and slowly craned its neck down toward the creek. Just before its tongue touched the crisp water, Leo shifted his weight onto his other foot, inadvertently snapping a twig. The fox twisted its neck over in Leo's direction and locked eyes with him. No one moved, neither boy nor beast. Then Leo started walking toward the wild animal. "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" Dontrell whispered through his teeth. "I'm just passing through," Leo whispered back. "What? Why?" stammered Dontrell. "It's in the stars." Leo slowly walked toward the fox. After just a few steps, the rust-colored animal bounded away, across the creek and into the woods. Dontrell exhaled. "You are the fearless lion." "I suppose I am," chuckled Leo. Back home. When Dontrell and Leo finally reached the house, their parents scolded them for their lateness, but were relieved that they were safe. After a late dinner, Leo and his father prepared for their drive back to the city. Lucinda invited Leo to stay for the weekend, but instead, he asked whether she and Dontrell could visit them in the city. Lucinda promised they would. Leo extended his hand, and he and Dontrell shook, knowing they would have many more adventures together.
Good job!